You're watching Channel 8 WMTW. Maine's total coverage starts right now.
Good evening, I'm James Corrigan. Thank you for joining us tonight for Maine's total coverage at 11. Let's start with the first check of your forecast with Maine's chief meteorologist, Roger Griswold. Roger, you're gracing us on a Sunday, but the warm weather hasn't done the same.
No, I left that at home, James, in just a couple of minutes. James?
One of these days we'll put those sweatshirts away, Roger. Thank you. Head-on crash on Route 1 in Woolwich today sent 2 people to the hospital. Police say the driver of a van headed north veered into the opposite lane and crashed into a Subaru Forester. Both drivers had to be freed from their vehicles and suffered serious injuries, but they are expected to survive. However, police say the dog owned by the Subaru's driver did succumb to injuries from the crash. The investigation continues tonight. Tonight, we are learning more about the 26-year-old who died after he drowned in a pond in Seabrook, New Hampshire. Officials say Justin Janvrin's small boat capsized yesterday. According to New Hampshire Fish and Game, a man was untangling his fishing line when he stood up, causing the boat to capsize. He and his wife both fell into the water. She was able to call 911 and make it to shore. Officials say Janvrin's body was recovered about 3 hours later. He was not wearing a life jacket. Also in New Hampshire, police in Rochester are working to identify the driver and victim involved in an alleged hit and run. Officials say when crews arrived on scene Friday night, they found a woman unconscious with a head injury. Officials believe that she was pushing an unoccupied baby stroller when she was struck by a car. The woman was taken to the hospital with serious injuries. Officers have not been able to identify her. A 5-year-old girl continues to recover tonight after investigators in Franklin, New Hampshire say her mother and sister were shot and killed yesterday. Our sister station, WMUR's Hannah Cotter, gives us an update on the shooting that we first told you about last night. Tonight in Davenport, Iowa, 2 people remain unaccounted for and are feared dead after an apartment building partially collapsed last week. Recovery teams yesterday located the body of a man now identified as Brandon Colvin Sr. The news came on the same day his son attended his high school graduation ceremony. The cause of the collapse remains under investigation. A new missile strike in central Ukraine has killed at least 1 child and injured several others. Rescuers are digging through the rubble after a Russian missile struck a residential building in Dnipro. It comes with Ukraine preparing for a counteroffensive, ramping up missile strikes on areas of Russian-occupied southern Ukraine. President Zelensky says he's ready to launch, but he admits it could take some time and come at a heavy cost. Drone footage in India today captures the aftermath of the deadliest rail crash in that country in more than 2 decades. At least 275 people killed after what was most likely a signal failure, and more than 1,200 people are injured, with 1 in critical condition. Their passenger train hit a stationary freight train, jumping the tracks, and then hit another passenger train in the opposite direction. This weekend, a Chinese warship nearly collided with a U.S. destroyer in the Taiwan Strait. Officials confirmed the Chinese naval ship came within 150 yards of the USS Changhoon. The U.S. is now accusing the Chinese ship of acting in an unsafe manner. Tensions have been growing between the U.S. and China. Last month, a Chinese fighter jet came within 400 feet of a U.S. recon plane over the South China Sea. Some lawmakers say the Biden administration needs to take a firm stance. China's defense minister has called the U.S. ship's presence a provocation and is accusing the U.S. of trying to destabilize China. That is a large sonic boom heard from Southwest Virginia as an unresponsive business plane that was flying over D.C. caused the military to scramble a fighter jet before that plane crashed. The fighter jet's boom was heard across the region. According to the FAA, the passenger plane took off from Tennessee and was headed for Long Island, New York. Instead, the plane turned around over the island and flew a straight path over D.C. before it crashed in Virginia around 3:30 today. It is still unknown how many people were on board. With more than 1.8 billion users, Gmail, of course, is one of the most popular email platforms in the world. But now a local cybersecurity expert says hackers are using one of its security features to conduct scams. Chris Plummer says he recently received an email that looked like it was from UPS, but thought something wasn't quite right. Plummer says at first Google brushed him off when he told him about the issue, but they're now working to fix the problem. As of tonight, Google has not yet commented on those concerns. A man in Florida is charged with aggravated assault after police in Flagler County say he pulled a gun on a woman who backed into his driveway. Police say it was caught on the man's home surveillance camera. He was apparently so unhappy that he charged out of his house to the driver, who at that point was across the street. Things then escalated when the deputies say the man pulled a gun out of his pocket and pointed it at her head. Tomorrow morning, the Portland Expo will stop taking in new asylum seekers. The city will spend the next couple of months finding other housing options for those staying there. The site will close in August so that staff have time to clean and restore the space before the next scheduled event at the Expo in September. Also tomorrow, the Portland City Council will decide if it wants to restrict drivers on a portion of Exchange Street on Sundays through September. The group Portland Downtown wants to close Exchange Street from Middle to 4th Street, restricting traffic to walkers and bikers only for an event called Open Air Sundays. The proposal says that this would benefit the community both economically and socially. The council meets tomorrow at 5 p.m.